This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so I had an action item to create an executive summary, and so I blurted something out. I'm not that proud of it, but I tried to say, here's what's broken, and then the next paragraph is, here's how we're fixing it. So, we don't have the tools we need to diagnose hardware failures and minimize their impact. CPUs, chipset IO devices are complex with thousands of registers. Understanding how to interpret the registers requires specialized knowledge. Our current approach gathers insufficient data, has a negative impact on security performance. It's inconsistent, makes it hard to collaborate with vendors. And RAS features are too hard to use, so we don't use them. And there's no standard way to report failure data back to vendors, and the vendors need that data to identify, mitigate. I don't know how to put it. I was thinking new or low fit rate failure modes that are hard to observe in their testing, but you get the idea. I mean, if we have a 50 fit problem, it's going to take billions of. There's not one 50 fit failure in any silicon, but if you have 50 fit silicon, you need billions of device hours to find a couple of one fit things to get your failure rate down 10%. So that was my mentality there. But if you don't like it, we can change it. As I said, I don't love it. And then the other thing they said, make sure you say open compute in here. So I just said this open compute requirements document describes a framework, and the framework is silicon vendors provide a RAS API and analysis tools. And then I talk about the benefits of the framework. So I don't know. I'll give you a second if you want to take a look and give me comments.
Hey, Drew. I think my only general comment, and this may be just something to think about, instead of saying, what we currently don't have, kind of focus on what this document provides. And the reason I'm saying that is keep in mind that, I mean, in an ideal world, like 10 years from now, someone will be looking at this document in order to understand something. And phrases like we currently don't have blah, blah, blah are going to be out of date, right?
Got it. How about prior solutions?
Yeah, that's okay, right? So just think about that as you are writing it, right? Like I think prior solutions might be fine, but I would just say in general, it's better to focus on like what is actually in the document, and so.
Okay, I guess like when
Yeah,
I talk
that's
to
fine.
executives, I try to say, something's wrong, and then I like, and here's a proposal, and will you approve it?
Yep. No, I understand. It's just, it's I guess writing a spec maybe it's a little different, right? Because you just kind of say, here's what the spec is, right? You don't try and define all the things that it's not, right? So,
Okay.
um,
How about another paragraph that say the benefits of?
Well, I think that's
there you go.
listed here.
Yep. Yep.
So, like, this is the problem, and then this is the benefit. So, it makes it easy to invoke RAS features, lowers the barrier, uh, allows us to share data.
Yeah, although
Okay.
we're trying to write it in the requirement style, specification style, we're trying to write it in the specs style, but it's really a requirements document. So a little background on problem statement doesn't hurt, in my opinion.
No, yeah, I agree, and I think maybe changing it to prior is fine, right? Like I'm just, like I said, right? Like in an ideal world, like 10 years from now, we just
Well,
don't want to write
it
it
would
so that
be
it's
good.
only, Yeah.
We will have
Yeah, I just say
changed
we
the
don't want to
world.
write it so that it's only valid for the next 6 months or whatever, right? Like, so
If
that's
we
all.
fix these problems in the next 6 months, I'm retiring with all the money that Google will give me for
Fair enough.
solving.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But sure,
Yeah.
your point is well taken, though, Vilas. So let me take a pass at that, and I'll see what I can do. Your point's well taken. Okay. Thank you. And I mean, I think like one of the problems today, so it's reflected. So especially the second paragraph, I'd like feedback because I'm asserting that we all have our favorite RAS features, and it comes as a result of us not having tried them all because they're all too hard. So we kind of pick what we think is going to work the best, implement that, and prove the value of it. But it's so hard to try them all that we really don't have good data across the board on the true value of some of the features in modern CPUs. And so if we lower the barrier and make it easier to try, I think we'll also converge on what is most valuable and for keeping our fleets up. And I think that helps everyone. It helps the silicon vendors focus, and it helps us. We have data. We know what knobs we can turn to get a particular result. Okay, well, I threw it out there. If y'all have feedback, it's there in the document. I welcome it, and I will, work on what you said, Vilas. Okay, and let's see. So we're down here, and it looks like uh, Rama made some changes, and if it's possible, these seem pretty good to me. I would just as soon accept them and get rid of the comments so the document's easier to read. Only exception I had to what you did, Rama, was there's like a dash in this one line that needs to be deleted. But in the bullet you
Yeah,
deleted.
yeah.
But
You can review and yeah.
obviously you didn't mean to have a bullet with a dash.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I was fine with what you did. I guess the other question I had about repair actions was, does that include driving RAS features? Because we want to do both, right? We want to
Yes, yes.
and does it? Is that, or should I call out RAS actions? You just say and RAS actions.
Yeah, RAS actions is okay. Yeah. Only yeah.
Like that.
One
Is that
and
okay?
one question. Yeah. One question I had is like that you mentioned in the comments about the CPER and we had like a one page document regarding how we want to combine CPER and redfish. Should I add that to appendix? The one page summary, or where should I put it so that?
There's a list of what we need to do next.
Hmm.
And so that seems like a good place. Yeah, like our list of standards affected. And I think that, as we address the things that we need to address in those standards, we replace it with things we need to address to, the parts of the standard that, address that do what we want. So does that make sense? It's kind of like at the end of the document.
Okay, end of the document. For now, I'll add in the appendix or something like
Well,
later.
it's right here, section 8.
Oh,
Enablement in the industry, and there's just this list of things that we need to
Can we
design.
understand actually, Drew, I want to understand a little bit better. What is that one pager about, Rama? I'm trying to remember.
no.
That's,
Last time, like we have some summary on what we standardized on the CPER and redfish. The content fits into one page. Okay, should I add somewhere in the document so that?
Oh, well, why don't we?
and that change is already done, right?
Pardon?
Well, yeah, didn't Jeff Otter review?
I don't know if you heard me. That change is already made, right, Rama? That is.
Yeah. It is
Oh, sorry,
made,
we're
but
speaking of each other.
like but people need to understand and implement in that flow. Otherwise, what will happen is, but there is somewhere in the redfish document, redfish API, but if nobody is using it, right, you don't get the solution back. I don't know, like a lot of people, when I talk to the other people, like
So
some vendors, like they're not aware of it. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I think
Yeah,
that
I
there,
think Drew,
yeah,
my opinion would be to list it there in the references that's needed, but put the full statement in the appendix, one of the appendices, right? That
okay.
would
Yeah,
be my
that's what I was
recommendation.
thinking through. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay, I'll try
So,
to add that later. Yeah. Somewhere eighth
and
chapter or appendix.
But link it from this section because that's this section mainly deals with what. Yeah. Is it just me or the audio is somewhat like I don't know, it's just doesn't seem like
your audio was cutting in and
there's
out
some
years
delay or
ago.
something. It doesn't seem.
Oh,
Okay, it's mine, huh? Okay.
I think so,
Yeah,
Rama. I was hearing you pretty.
I have the reference. I can also add if Jeff is not here. I have the reference link to Redfish. I can add that.
Okay. But this is for the
Yeah,
changes
so
Jeff
Rama,
added.
what I was saying, Drew, was no. So what it is, Drew, is Rama, Jeff, and Antonio worked on this. Changes already made in the Redfish. They want to highlight that, hey, this is the change that we made, and they want to reference to that highlight. So what Rama is saying is there is a one-page summary of the change they made already. Okay, now they want to include that summary in the appendix and refer to that summary in this section. I think that's probably what we should do.
Yeah.
Although we are calling it the changes that are needed, but this change is needed, but it's already made, right?
Okay, that's okay, right? Okay, we'll add in the appendix somewhere and later you can change it. Okay.
And then we reference it in this section.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Right.
And we can just put a bookmark in the document to whatever you did, and then hyperlink it in the document. If you want help, I'll, just ping me and I'll
Sure.
gladly help.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm just going to scroll back up to where we were. Let's see. So, okay. Once again, I would like to propose we accept these changes. Is there any pushback?
Drew, that time you were breaking up.
Oh, maybe
I cannot
it's.
hear you.
Can we accept these changes? Okay,
Can
I'll try
anybody hear
again.
Drew?
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of static too, Drew.
Huh.
Must be me then. I'm gonna drop.
Yogesh, you were hearing it too, though, right?
No, Mark, I'm also hearing a lot of static from Drew. Yeah,
Yeah.
No,
I'm getting a little bit too.
I hear you
okay.
fine.
I hear you fine, Drew. Yes.
Okay.
So what Drew is saying is, should we accept those changes? Is there
Maybe.
anybody that does not agree with accepting those changes?
Yeah, this change in the section 2 looks good.
Okay. Based on that, I mean, I'm not hearing objections. I'm just going to accept this and do a little bit of cleanup. I get rid of that bullet and that line break. Gosh. Okay. Huh. Okay. So, are we okay with it now?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, and I mean, I think we just have to grind through and clean up comments like this where we can, so that we can get the document kind of back under control. I'm not in a bad way. I love the comments, but we need to follow through and finish them up. So the next thing, okay, so Rami, your point here is excellent about this is focused on hardware telemetry, and Anil and I had talked about a solution, and maybe, I don't know if we want to do this later or not, but we like it's inevitable that we have microcontrollers and the CPU gathering data for us, and we're going to have to correlate that hardware collected data with OS collected data. And so what Anil and I talked about was embedding a GUID or a high-speed timer in the error logs and in the machine check banks. So when the OS logs the error, it just inadvertently picks up our GUID or some sort of identifier for the error log, and the out-of-band collected logs have that same data. And so then you can unambiguously correlate the in-band errors and the out-of-band. And so but I kind of think that's a future proposal. I'm excited about it. I really want to see it, and I think Anil, seemed to like it when we talked about it a while ago, Anil. But I don't know what to do about your comment. I think we may
Basically,
need
are you
to.
saying like when, let's say, one error is handled by both, okay? And can they have associated with a GUID, same GUID? Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, and so just like a bare metal use. So the bare metal use case is the hardest here, but let's say that I have a bare metal customer that has a machine check and
Mm,
they're unhappy that they crashed. We could ask them, could you please share your machine check log with us, and
mm.
we will take a look, and we could look at our hardware error log and look at their machine check and say, oh yeah, these two match. These are the same event. And unambiguously
Yeah,
tell the
yeah, that is,
customer, we know
yes.
exactly what happened. This is what the hardware was doing. Or we could say, we don't know what was happening. Could you tell us what the software was doing for this crash? Go look in your logs for this GUID. And of course, if we own the OS and the out-of-band hardware, then it's easy.
Yeah, yeah. I think OS right now, Linux or Windows follows that the CPR defined GUID, right? If the BMC also using the same GUID, that's what the like
Well,
Redfish and the CPR. I think, yeah, I think it is workable solution. I think as long as they follow the standard, right?
Well,
Uh,
this is slightly different in that how does the OS you get the GUID? Because so someone has to make a GUID that says here's an identifier for this particular failure, and normally the OS or whoever's just doing the logging makes that up on the fly. And so I'm proposing that we share the hardware or something running in firmware on the hardware creates the GUID and places it in the machine check bank register for the OS to collect.
oh, I think if I remember correctly, those are also spec defined. Like not that
Mhm.
like each error record type as a GUID. Okay, the CPR
There, there
section.
are multiple GUIDs. There's a GUID that identifies the record type, but that's not so helpful here. If I'm
Oh,
talking to a bare metal
okay, okay.
customer and they've had a crash, and I've seen 100 crashes on this machine, I mean, obviously we wouldn't tolerate that. But let's just say I have a whole bunch of crashes, and I want to be absolutely certain that they are giving me that I know what their OS collected error logs map to with my hardware error logs. I need a GUID in the log that doesn't identify the format. It identifies
Okay.
the actual event. It's like
Oh, okay.
this instance of an error, this particular crash has a GUID
Okay.
now. Or it
Yeah.
could be a high-speed timer too, but it
But
needs to be a
so,
unique identifier.
yeah, so Drew, the problem there I see as from the hardware side is an error is not a single thing, right? From a hardware perspective, we're going to see a lot of errors coming through. One might be the root cause, but you'll see them throughout. And the problem is, how do I identify which was the root cause? Even in the hardware, it's hard to do, right? Like
Yeah.
you one error in one IP will log errors into multiple IPs as they find out. And there's race conditions between IPs, so it's very difficult to know exactly which one was the first. So even from a
Yeah,
hardware perspective, it's like if I put a GUID to each one of those hardware errors, right? Let's say you get 300 GUIDs, and I give you one GUID for each IP that failed, that's
that's not
linked
what I'm.
to
Yeah, yeah, that's not what I'm saying. So good. I'm glad. What I was proposing was, so the OS will find out that something's gone wrong through a machine check. And so I'm saying that whatever generates the machine check generates the GUID, and that whatever logs the error out of band gets a copy of that same GUID. So you could have 100 different errors. You could have plenty of different banks. It could be, like a PCIe device that failed in a way that, caused a failure that created a GUID. So, and I agree, Antonio, what I'm proposing here doesn't cover every failure case, right? I mean, if you had let's say a device error that didn't result in a machine check, it's not covered. So, but I guess what I'm proposing is a starting point.
Drew, I think
Yeah,
you're
well,
describing CPR, right? I think there's a GUID built into CPR that identifies the event. There's also a timestamp with it as well. So
Yeah, but the problem that today is that you have usually the CPR is logged by firmware first and then passed to the OS. And I'm saying, but the problem here is if you do it out of band, the OS may not get that CPR log with that stuff in it.
right, well, that's a different question though, right? You're basically highlighting the race condition if you have two people managing the platform. I'm saying, the CPR log has the information you want. The key there to me is, the platform or the BMC, either one are likely to use CPR, right? And what are you really asking for here? For the OS
What,
to use CPR.
well, what I'm no, that's not quite. What I am so like firmware first has this problem today. So if you have SMM based logging, where you log errors out of band to the BMC, you still have to correlate, or even if you just so let's say you take an SMM, you log the error and then uh, uh, send it to something where you can get it as a server vendor, and your customer is running whatever OS they want on your server, and they log it. It's still hard to correlate those. So it's a problem with firmware first also, even without the race condition.
Yeah, so that I think that's a different question from my perspective, because my solution to that problem is, you know you you either have the BMC managing, or you have the platform managing, or you have the OS managing, and never all of them.
So, Mark, the problem here is that let's say that you have the platform or the BMC managing. Um, an OS can still have a bug that causes a machine check, or or you can still have failures where you really want to know what the OS was doing, and the OS has to take a machine check. That's part of containment, right? If you have poison data, you don't want the OS consuming it, so you machine check. So, um, so this is a more universal problem that we would like to solve.
Drew, sorry to interrupt you. Uh, can you go back and just let's respond to what Rama's comment
Yeah,
is?
we're kind of taking a
And
side. So I would like to maybe just
I
acknowledge.
think
so,
the
hold
way
on.
I read it,
I go on a second.
Drew, I think to revisit that comment, right? Go ahead, sorry. I don't know. Its timing is weird. I don't understand.
Let me
Go ahead.
close. Let me
Say
close.
something.
Uh,
Sure.
Can you guys hear
Yeah,
me?
I was also going to comment on that comment. So after you, yeah.
Right. So I think Rama has a valid point, and when I read through this one, I was okay with that because this is really kind of giving an example here. We're kind of expanding on the problem statement, okay, and by giving few examples, right? And the first paragraph is talking about challenges in OS first method. So one example you gave about not all the errors can be visible. That's correct. And I just made a little tweak to the last sentence by saying that another example, just another example only, right? And then provide the context of like bare metal. OS first logging will will report errors to the end user rather than the server fleet operator, which is true. So these are just examples, and I don't see any problem with that.
I'm fine with the way that's written too.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead, Yogesh. I'm sorry. I was just gonna say that Anil's changed the fine with me.
I was also reading the comment that Rama made in the same spirit that what is it? I thought Rama can clarify the best, but I think the point is valid that yes, there is additional information that is in the OS side of things, and I think absolutely we're trying to kind of expand the scope here by getting into the GUID discussion, because I think that that overall goes into, okay, how can we make it even more comprehensive where in-band and out-of-band both can work together and help with what would be the debug, right? So I think that's kind of how I understand it. But
yeah, I think Yogesh, we are all looking at it in the same way, right? Let's just focus on this is the problem statement paragraph. Okay, so let's just, and that's what this context here. So if you want to add something to the problem statement, let's add it here.
Well, I think I mean I like what Rama said. I just want to be careful about PII. So why don't we acknowledge that it is that the OS context is often relevant to debugging something, and we need to be able to correlate the OS gathered data with whatever other error logs are gathered. I mean, that's the heart of what you were saying, isn't it, Rama?
Yeah.
Put it in the context of the problem statement, okay? No, because this is the context of this paragraph, this section here, right? So what problems we are solving?
Here, so it is often important to how about that? I mean, like that's the problem statement, I think. I'm trying. Rama, if you could respond first.
That looks good. Like if there is small change, I'll edit it. Yeah, let's go proceed. I think I don't want to stuck here. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah.
Okay. And so we want to correlate it, but we're not saying that we're going to gather the software logs here in this proposal.
Yeah.
I'm happy. That was my main concern. Okay. Thank you for your patience, everyone. And while we're at it, I'm happy with Anil's change. Can we just accept it and clear out the comment? Anyone object to me accepting Anil's comment?
I'm okay with that.
Agreement.
That's good to me.
Okay. Let's see. And I'm going to accept this.
Should we just clear Rama's comment also, or do we need some more discussion here?
Yeah, I was going to say that. Let's accept, and yours also, Drew.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Sorry, can you go? There's an EL something written here. I don't know the terminology. Do we have any section here where all these acronyms are described?
In the glossary, and it's not there. So I will give myself an action item, or if someone else wants to take it, but I can do it.
That is exception level 3.
Yeah.
I think if we don't mind, just spell it out here, rather than simple change.
Well, it's an ARM. It's like a standard ARM processor thing. So I'll put it in the glossary and I can explain. I mean, uh, uh, I don't know what else we can say here.
That's okay.
I can say is similar to SMM, and that'll imply a definition. Or maybe on ARM has, how about some similarity to SMM, but avoids some of the problems.
I mean, I think we probably can do something like as an example, EL3 firmware on ARM, like that. That we're just coding an example here, right?
Sure. Do you wanna make a proposal then?
Yeah, I'll just yeah. That's it.
Fine with me. I guess what I was saying is, yeah, such as SMM, and SMM's a problem in x86, but EL3 is a big problem, but we still don't like it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Sorry. Then in that case, I'll reword that a little bit. Sorry. Well, then keep going. I can come back.
Okay, we can scroll back up. Okay.
Hey, I'll be
So,
there in a second.
oh, sorry, was that Hank?
Yeah, sorry.
I just didn't want to cut you off because there's a little bit of lag here, so I'm afraid we're cutting each other off a little bit. So if you have something, speak up. No, we didn't mean to cut you off. Oh wow, my picture got accepted. Okay. So
I did that, Drew, because I looked at your picture, looks perfect, so I just deleted mine.
okay. I mean, I didn't know step on your toes too much. It's just the hypervisor is kind of important to us sometimes. So
Oh, that's okay. I was thinking do it, but I'm glad you did it.
okay, cool. And so hopefully that doesn't bother anyone else. All I did was took Anil's drawing, and I couldn't do the callouts the same way, so I did it kind of with these boxes and added hypervisors. So okay. And so I will accept the border.
I was just one thing it occurred to me, Drew. In the case of bare metal, hypervisor may still be optional, right? We don't know.
Yeah, we're blind to it, but I could add hypervisor to the bare metal case if you want to make it
As
consistent.
optional, right? That way, kind of just consistent. There's no ambiguity.
Absolutely.
In fact, in the infrastructure also, I would say hypervisor keep it optional. I don't know if all the infrastructure instantiations use hypervisor.
It depends. When we provide, so actually, when you provide an infrastructure, it's pretty much always a hypervisor. So, like when you go to rent an Amazon machine, a normal Amazon instance or Google, they're all hypervisor based. Sorry, go ahead, Yogesh.
No, I was going to say
You're
optional
right.
covers both cases, right? If you add optional, it's kind of harmless, right?
Well, I guess.
A good point though. And this is how we are in fact differentiating between infrastructure and bare metal in some sense, right? Where infrastructure hypervisor is kind of required.
It is required.
Option. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh yeah, that was my point. Anil gets it. Like when you go to Amazon, or I'm sure Microsoft's cloud, you rent a small virtual machine. It is a virtual machine. It requires a hypervisor, and that's what you get with a non-bare metal use case. It's always a hypervisor.
Yeah.
Or always a virtual machine, right? Which implies a hypervisor. Okay.
Yeah.
But your point's well taken on bare metal. We don't know what the customer's doing, so they may or may not have one. I'll put it. You're right. Okay. And then there's this figure in. I think, as far as I'm concerned, we can accept this comment. I would I'd change the colon to a period. Is my only thing.
The underscore n, I left it there because I didn't know the figure numbers.
And you need to add caption there, right?
This is figure 1.
Need to add captions there.
Oops, figure 1. Okay. When you say caption, I
I
was
think,
just going.
yeah, should have something that shows up as a table of figures or table of
We'll
tables
have.
kind of thing.
I'll look at
And,
that.
and, and if you have that, then the numbering will be consistent between the figures also, right?
I'm not sure Google Docs is that fancy, but I'll see. I think there is a way to do it, but I'll have to go look. And you know, I'd like to make a period at the end of it,
Yeah, please.
but and
Any kind of
describe,
grammatical issues, yeah.
and I'll say the baseline error classification used in the rest of the document. But other than that, I'm fine with it. Okay, just minor grammar. Okay. Now the next thing up was to add text describing each error severity from the backup, but I believe that's in this table. So
Yeah,
I'd like.
exactly. That's what I did do. So you can delete that. I didn't want to delete it. Actually, I didn't have right to delete also.
Oh, fine, fine. Yeah. No, I think it's there. I think you got it. So, and I saw the changes you made, and you fixed that. So there's no corrected errors can have race conditions, uncorrected can have race. Both of them can have races. DC tooling, that's cleaned up. And I think we all agree we don't want to talk about the SEL here. We want to just make them visible, and we're saying redfish.
Yeah, I'm okay with all your changes. I just made one grammatical thing. That's it. Recovery or panics rather than crash. That's it.
Sure, that's fine with me. I agree. Yeah, it depends is the answer, and that's perfect. Okay, this looks good to
Hey, folks,
me.
is just one quick comment. Is DC tooling self-explanatory, or do we need anything to?
So there's a block diagram you drew, right? There should be a DC tooling reference there. If not, then just use whatever we
I
referred
think
here.
I think we were just saying cloud provider infrastructure, maybe, or
That's fine. In Meta, we use DC tooling. That's fine.
oh, okay. I think we just were
For us,
calling it
tooling
cloud.
is with all the infrastructure where we are trying to, use any kind of information for diagnostics and repair and all that. So that was the context. Yeah.
We have a different term, and other than that, and so if it's okay with folks, we'll just use CSP infrastructure because I think that's we all have infrastructure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good catch, Yogesh.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Okay.
I get blindsided with what I'm doing right now.
So I'm just gonna make this the same as the others. Oh, and then I think I got rid of autonomous crash dump. That's an Intel term.
Yeah.
And so
Good catch.
I'd like to just make it generic. So
Mm-hmm.
platform collects error logs.
Yep.
Okay. And then let's see. Okay, so then Anil, we just don't. This wasn't in Mark Fletcher's taxonomy that we agreed on earlier, so I took it out.
Well, so hold on. This is a class of failures, which is, I would say, the most severe. Are we saying that we don't see that kind of class, or I mean, the reason to delete is because Mark didn't have it, or because we don't consider this as a class of failure?
Well, I guess what I would say is that if you can't get to the machine and the BMC isn't running and you have no redfish, this thing isn't going to. What we're doing isn't going to help you much. It's if you don't have housekeeping power, like basically we'll always have to have cases where you plug the machine in and it's dead on arrival, or the machine just dies and does absolutely nothing. In that case, we're not, there's no diagnosis, there's no error logs. The BMC's dead, the machine doesn't boot, the BIOS is gone, it didn't running. We're just talking about a completely dead machine. So I don't think I acknowledge that it happens. I just don't think this proposal has much that's going to fix it.
Well, in that case, I would not like to delete it. I would say this case is not is out of the scope of this document, because
Yeah,
this
so
case happens, right?
I wouldn't argue that point, but let me just say the category is certainly valid, right?
Right.
And for those kinds of faults, when they happen, in my view, it's almost always, it has to be the hardware that manages, right? And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that there's no logs. I mean, I think in our platforms, we will have logs.
Correct.
But the idea is when a VR fails, you're going to lose power, and the platform's going to crash. The key is when you come back to the machine, how do you know, right? How do you know that the VR is what failed, and and how do you remedy that, right? So if you can't get access to it through the BMC, and I'm not saying that's true, I'm just saying if you can't, then it's a platform responsibility. But those errors are valid. I mean, they're going to become more common because the DDR5 DIMMs have their own VR on the DIMM. So now they're all independent points of failure. So, when those VRs fail, it'll power off the platform.
Well, if the VR fails, the DIMM doesn't power up and gets ignored, right?
Well, actually, the Mark didn't use the right example. That VR failure will be the one row before.
Yeah.
This is the failure where, let's say, BMC VR fails, or whatever BMC is sitting on the module, right? Where BMC itself is the host. Then what do you do, right? That's the bucket here, and we do see this failure, and there are ways to handle those. And I see a point, Drew, because we are talking in the context of error log, right? I mean, honestly, we do create error logs, but not in the BMC.
I guess my point would be, though, that is definitely out of scope, right? If you're talking about a failure in the BMC, I think that's beyond the scope of what we're trying to identify here.
Correct.
I was specifically talking about platform events because that's obviously what we're focused on.
Yeah, that will be the row before, right, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you're right. The DDR5 failures are becoming interesting failures that causes system crash.
Absolutely, but we can the BMC is on housekeeping in many cases. So yeah, I think we got it. Hopefully, are you okay with the changes in this row now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have one question here, though, right? We're assuming there's no. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello. So
yes, we can hear you.
No record or log whatsoever. The error is so sudden. There's no record generated for this. Nothing gets related to the BMC and further on. Is that
well,
what
there are
ways
to handle, Yogesh. The CSP infrastructure
it's not
has
just
mattered.
about handling, right? It's also logging.
Sorry?
Right. So I'm thinking about what if there is a log that gets generated? What happens to that log, right? Is it just an orphan log to be ignored? Is it what we're saying?
So the problem
Understand
is
the handling
that,
part, right? It's business platform level.
So like let's imagine the system won't come up and at all. Like so the BMC is unable to be powered up. there's no one to gather the logs. So as far as the CSP is concerned, there are no logs because we can't get them remotely. A technician is going to have to go pull the look at the machine and look at the power LEDs, or pull the machine out and bring it back to a bench and do some debugging.
By the
Yeah,
way,
but
just
I
to
think
clarify,
that's a separate case though, Drew. My view is that the BMC would be aux powered. And the only time the BMC is going to fail, as you describe, is when there's a loss of AC. And that's obviously going to happen. But for those cases, I don't see it as a problem. We're not, that's a, a loss of AC is a generalized problem, but not a platform event and not a BMC event. The specific.
no, hold on. Let's not jump to that kind of specific example because this is this. Yeah, we can't make assumption, Mark, that when BMC hung, that means it must be due to AC power. No, that's not true.
No,
we do have the
I'm not.
Well,
I didn't
up.
say that.
Mark is correct. There is the DRAM that's on the BMC and the DRAM on the main CPU.
Yeah,
Right.
That's okay.
Well, I think we're raising the point that the BMC can fail. The BMC is powered by voltage regulators, and they're small and they're more reliable than the high power regulators. But I've seen them crash before, and the BMC could have bad memory. The BMC could have a broken CPU and not make any progress. And when that happens, the system is dead to us. If the BMC is broken, then we have to go through another process because we can't control its power anymore. We can't manage the system. And so I think it's fair to say BMC is broken. That is not covered here. You have to pull the system out of the rack and go through some process to diagnose the BMC.
Yeah, so that
I think Drew, I see that. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, I wouldn't argue that point. The idea is, I just think it's out of scope, right? The idea is,
Agreed.
if the platform fails, I mean, the examples I think we were using were bad. The idea is, if the platform has power loss, I mean, I would just say this: we should not talk about two failures, right? Two failures are always going to be unpredictable. We should always focus on one. And the one failure, if the BMC fails, I completely agree. We're hosed. We're out of the game. The platform's gone, right? And so that's all we need to state, right? If the BMC fails, you got no hope. But I would just focus on that one failure. Any context in the BMC, and there's a bazillion different failures that could cause the BMC to go away. Fine. Any of those happen, we're not recoverable.
I completely agree. Look, let's write that and move on. I agree with you, Mark, 100%. Unreservedly. You are right. And let's do it. Yeah.
And me too. And you see it at scale. I mean, tens of thousands of racks.
Oh, sure. Well, I don't know about tens of thousands, but we see it.
No,
for sure.
Tens of thousands is right.
I'll just clarify something though, because I think it's important to differentiate that there's always a possibility, and we see that host is still happy running. It's just BMC hung or fails, and so that means the errors are being still propagated to OS or invented, you can call, and we can use to get to the host through sideband, and then go and reset the BMC. So all I'm saying is that scenario is possible. We should not preclude here, but since we are keeping the scope of this document out of band primarily, it's okay to say it's out of scope. But if you keep the scope of this document as a overall solution, then I would say this is not out of scope. But I'm struggling with that because then the scope is going to grow for this document. So let's keep it out of scope and go move on. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
So the second sentence, Anil, the hardware must have capabilities. Does that cover that what you're trying to say, the spirit of what you're trying to say. Hardware must.
Yeah, I mean, because this failure is feasible, right? So we have given a
Capable
solution. Sorry, Yogesh, your voice is kind of choppy.
abilities for diagnosing. So this is obviously BMC is jacked. So nothing, no logs, no infrastructure, nothing, right? Is fair. That's correct, right?
Is that just me, or I was not?
Is it just me? I'm losing links of like seconds of conversation. Is it just me?
Everybody is choppy from time to time. It just sounds like everybody's having problems. I've already had to drop once.
Yeah, it's getting worse though. I'm losing like.
Yeah.
It's getting worse now. I'm losing like seconds of conversation now. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think you just dropped out for a few seconds, Yogesh.
Why don't
Well, we're almost out of time.
we call it a meeting? Yeah, why don't we call it a meeting for today? Continue. It's getting difficult this way. I don't know. For everyone, right?
I agree. I think that's a good decision, and I'll endeavor to try to find some
We only
time
have 4
to
minutes left, anyways. Not like
review.
Yeah, good progress today. Really appreciate.
I appreciate that, Mark. I think we only have like. Yeah. Yep.
Y'all have a good weekend.
You too.
You too.
Okay, please keep
Okay,
reviewing it.
if
Thank
you can
for
hear
your
me, have a good
feedback.
weekend.
Yep. Okay,
Bye.
talk to you later.